The South Florida Bulls left us in suspense. They were playing a Connecticut Huskies team that's one of the worst defensive football teams in the FBS era. The Huskies give up 658 yards total on the ground per night and 53.7 points per game. And guess what? Out of 130 FBS teams, both of those are 129th. It took the fourth quarter, and it took a freshman running back from Miami Senior High School in Miami, Florida. He was the Dade County Player of the Year, Johnny Ford, to extricate the Connecticut Huskies and literally walk the dog as the South Florida Bulls beat Connecticut 38-30, and now a rematch with the Houston Cougars with the same thing on the line next week is in the offing. It was a tough night if you're a Bulls fan, because offensively they could not sustain drives and get anything going in the first half. Connecticut led for the biggest part of the first half 7-0 before Ford was able to score right before halftime and tie the game at 7-7. USF had about 200 more total yards offense in the first half, but it was interceptions by Blake Burnett on the first two drives. It was penalties that caused the Bulls to be in long yardage for a lot of the first half, and then they wind up having to punt, or they get into the other end of the field, the plus end of the field, and they can't score, and frustration mounted. It's almost like it's psychological. They came in here a 33-point favorite, and they left with an 8-point win. And the psychology of the situation tells you that, maybe they, were a little overconfident. Maybe they weren't, as sharp and mentally focused as they should have been, to go ahead and run UConn out of here. I mean, personally, I thought it'd be like 21-0 at the end of the first quarter, but they just didn't play a clean game, and they have to start playing a clean game on both sides of the football. With 3 of the next 4 games on the road against Houston, Temple, and Cincinnati. Tulane comes in the first week of November, and then Central Florida, the Knights, visit the Ray J on November 23rd. It's the Friday after Thanksgiving. Jordan Cronkite had a big night again, going over 100 yards. He's been rolling lately, as he's averaging 151 yards. He's second in the American in yards rushing. It's going to be a big week this week as the Bulls try to get ready for Ed Oliver, who is as good as any defensive player in the nation at Houston. The key, though, is going to be to sustain these long drives, and they've got to keep the Houston quarterback King off the field. Charlie Strong said after the game, he said, hey, we play like that next week on defense, King will go for 500 yards. I mean, they made David Pendell look like Jameis Winston, who plays here tomorrow, for crying out loud. But it's a win. It's 38-30. Maybe they were looking ahead a little bit, because Houston, it was the same scenario last year. The Cougars came in here, the Bulls at 7-0, and the Cougars took them out. South Florida, finished the year. They had 23 seniors on the team. Coach Strong says they're not going to look at that situation going into next week at all. They're going to play from where they are and try to get better. A good thing where, one, they've got to erase penalties. 2, they've got to sustain drives and finish on the offensive side of the football. And then 3, if you want to flip the script to defense, Charlie Strong says they have to be able to win the line of scrimmage to have success in the coming weeks. Final score here at Raymond James Stadium, South Florida 38, Connecticut 30. I'm going to drive home and be back here tomorrow, and I'll talk to you when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers host the Cleveland Browns.